Today I'm going to show you how to properly document and photo your home. So get your camera ready because we're going to take pictures of all the elevations first. Make sure that when you're taking a photo, you click on a shaded area, it will brighten the rest of your photo. You see how it's dark there when I click on the house because there's a lot of sun, but if I click on a shaded area, it brightens everything and I can see a lot more detail. Then take your photo. I want to make sure that I can get both elevations if possible. When I'm looking at this report, I can see both sides of the house and I know exactly where we're looking. This is a cornice return. Make sure you get photos of that too. If I'm replacing fascia and I have things like this on the fascia, make sure you get a photo of that so I can allocate to remove and replace that. Also, siding. I'm looking for hits that are higher than 4 feet up. That really gives me a chance to get that paid for. If you have additional buildings in the back, let's get some pictures of those all the way around and get me some wide shots too so I can see where they are on the property and what's around them and what the access to them looks like. If you take a look at this fence right here, this fence is completely closed off. I have a huge shed over here and I have to access this shed, and I have a small door here and I don't have a large door. So if this shed is going to require me to get a lot of space into back here, I've got to account for that. Look over here, I've got a double gate over here, so this shows me that I have access to it. So make sure you get a photo, and if you can even put a little note for me on company cam that there's a double door on this side to access to the back so that we can get this storage equipment out of here. This shed was damaged by wind and hail. It ripped off the door. I need to know that. Ask your homeowner, hey, was this door here before the storm or did the storm knock it off? And if your homeowner told you that the storm knocked off the door, get photos of it and let's document it. The other thing we need to take into consideration is the fact that this wood is all rotten and deteriorated. I can't paint this. I have to replace it. So what do I need to know? I need to know what type of material this is. So if you have to, get in between here and get me some photos so I can see the thickness of it and I know what it is that I'm trying to replace on here. Screens. I can see this when you do your elevation shots, but take a picture of the damage, back up and show me exactly what part of the house it is and how many you have. If you have chalk and you need to hit your sides, mark that, photos, back up, take another photo so I can see which windows they are and how many they are. I have exposed sheathing from the bottom. Take a photo of this. This helps our case. If we're replacing gutters because of dings in the gutter, make sure you get me photos of the downspouts and where they are. Even mark them if you can. If you have dings in here, take the photo of the ding and back out and show me where it is and which one we're talking about. We also want to get pictures of damage to the compressor. If you have exposed fins, get photos of that too if they're damaged. Do I have open or closed soffits? Get me photos of the soffit all the way around the house. If we're replacing sheathing, I'm gonna have to repaint that if it's open so that the sheathing underneath doesn't look terrible because before it was probably painted. I need to allocate for that as well. Open or closed soffit also prepares your production manager whether he needs shorter nails or not, because if we have an open soffit, we don't want to run 1 1/4 inch nails. We want to do 1 inch nails so it doesn't shoot through the soffit. I have a carport here that I have to work around. If I'm not replacing this carport, that means I have difficult access issues. So I have to account for additional labor to move from one place to the next again up onto the roof. This is very important for me. That's why we need photos from far away so that we see what kind of access we have to this property. This little kitchen nook is covered by the carport. Hover will pick this up, but Eagle View won't. Roof Scope may not pick it up either, or any of those type of satellite imagery companies. So we need to make sure that we get photos of it and measurements. I also need to know how much space I have to work with up here. So give me a measurement of how much space we've got here. Look at that decking, it's so thin. We need to make sure that we have photos of this. If you can get a measuring tape in there, great. But this one's obviously less than the code, so we need to just take pictures of this. If you've taken all of your elevation shots and you've gotten photos, detailed photos of your window screens, your siding, your window beading, your air conditioning units, your fencing, all of those things, we're gonna get onto the roof and we're gonna get a closer look at the fascia and all the accessories. Now we're gonna take a look at our fascia. This fascia has aluminum wrapped over the actual fascia wood, so it's very sustainable to hail damage. Look at all those hail hits. Make sure that you get a really good picture of these hail hits. This probably isn't the greatest color. You might want to go with like a blue or a red. This is all this that I had right now. We don't need 2 drip edges, but we have to allocate to remove both of them. If you can get your hands on a pair of polarized shades, you'll be able to see a lot more detail in the roof, helping you pick out hail damage and wind damage. Also, don't be afraid to take photos through your polarized lenses. It'll also help a lot more. Right here we have wind damage, exposed felt, and exposed decking. We need to make sure that we properly tarp this and we document the tarping on it. Get a picture up close showing the damage, tarp it, get the picture far away. Even get the picture far away before you tarp it so we know exactly what part of the roof that this is on. Show me a picture of your valley metal. That's very important. I need to show that it was there before. Make sure you have a good pair of Cougar Paw or anti-slip resistant shoes. This is an OSHA thing, and also if you're getting photos of you with regular tennis shoes, I don't need that. I want to see your Cougar Paws on the roof. You're up on the roof, I need to know about all of the facets that you have. So help me out by marking it. This is number 1. I also would love a picture showing me how big this is. If you're running lead pipe jacks, you need to know the sizes of them. Number 2, pipe jack size. Get a picture of that. Number 3, get a picture of that. Same thing with your turbines. I don't need to know the size, but I need to know how many. Mark your quantities of your turbines and all facets. Here's an exhaust vent. I need to know the approximate size. Also, how many of them do I have? I just have 1. Satellites are important. I need to know how many of them I have. Am I putting them back onto the roof? Also, if I have 2 or 3 or 4 brackets, I also need to have pictures of all of those as well. Mark these if you have them all over the roof. After we mark all of our facets and penetrations, give me a 360 view of all the roof. Overlap your photos so that we make sure we see everything. Sometimes when you transition from a pitched roof to a flat roof, you will have a wall right here. We have to show that there's flashing there so that we can replace it as well. You're always going to have a transition difference from here to here. If you can get close enough to the gutters on the top side, get me a photo of that gutter, run your chalk over the top. Remember to use that flat side so that you can show where the ding is. Then back up, show me where that gutter is, what elevation, so that I can account for it as well. Make sure that you're not only using your shingle thickness gauge on the edge of the roof to show your shingle, but also for your ridge cap. If this is an elevated ridge cap, that means you've got a high profile or a Z ridge that we need to also account for. Try and get me as much detailed information as you can on it. If the homeowner has paperwork and they installed this, get that paperwork for us so that we know where to get this information. I also need to see how other roofs are connected to the particular roof that we're working on. Do we have a transition flashing? Is it just caulked like this one? If you notice, we've got the drip edge here and the other drip edge is caulked onto here. And we also have that flashing that we talked about earlier that we're gonna have to replace. So all of this needs to come up. I need photos of that. Remember that fascia that we chalked? Make sure you show me what elevation it is and all of it as well. So get good pictures of that. And remember, tap the dark parts of your camera so you can get a nice bright picture for me.
Hey everybody, David with Two Brothers Roofing. We brought you out here to this property today so that we can break down what we look for when we arrive to a home to do an inspection, to do a photo report. And so we're standing here on the sidewalk so that we can show you how busy this street is. We have a lot of pedestrians that come through here as well. And so if there's some sort of additional safety measures that we need to take to consider that, we want to make sure that we're keeping that in mind. So I have limited access to certain parts of the home, so I'm going to take 3 different pictures here. It's going to show it from far away, a little bit closer to the measuring tape, and then all the way up close so you can see the measuring tape.